we do this? And he kept saying, yeah, sure, why not? And that's been really some of the relationship that we've built since an Instagram DM from 6 years ago, where he talked about coming to my hometown to paint some murals. I had no idea what to expect or what that meant, and we figured out a really interesting and fun collaboration. I am just so honored to have him here tonight, and the impact in my life. This collaboration became life-changing for what I understood art to be. It went from something in a studio to something in this great public space where we could have people interacting and this just beyond imaginable connection. And that's what I've learned from Ramiro, is that art can really be about connection. We are currently in progress for 2 murals in the Arts Complex courtyard, in part because Ramiro kept saying, yeah, sure. So I encourage you to join us over the next couple of days in painting those murals, but also for Friday at 4 p.m., we will have an unveiling and reception in the courtyard. There will be no reception after tonight's talk, as we will be putting some finishing touches on the background for tomorrow's intense day of painting. Tonight, you'll hear about the importance of community-based public art from Ramiro. Through his projects, he will trace the evolution of his art and process and share how collaboration can transform both artwork and audience. I have personally experienced this transformation, and I'm just so honored that he chose to come here to FGCU to share his expertise and enthusiasm in this talk and in the series of workshops tomorrow and Friday. I also want to thank Alice and Dean Fjelstul for making this lecture series possible. Their support brings varied perspectives on art and art making to our campus and allows us to soak in all of the experiences and wisdom of artists, curators, conservationists, and more. I also want to thank the FGCU Art Galleries, the art program faculty and staff, Bauer School of Music and the Arts, Physical Plant, Facilities, Environmental Health and Safety, Dr. Christoph Biernacki, Joanna Names, Steve Hugert, John Lasciuto, John Dorsett, Dr. Clay Motley, and Interim Dean Laura Frost for all the ways that they have supported this project. Now, for this positive community artist, Ramiro Davaro-Comas is an Argentinian-American artist with a background in public art and artist residency management. Davaro-Comas is a graduate of the Eisenberg School of Management at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, an AmeriCorps Vista alumni, and a recipient of the Leadership in Arts Management certificate from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Davaro-Comas has participated in artist residency programs around the world and has painted over 300 murals and managed another 150 mural installations for other artists. He was the director of the Art Students League residency program and Dripped on the Road. Currently, he co-directs Super Stories with Grace Lang, focuses on art education and large-scale community mural projects. Super Stories center the students and community members in every aspect of the work. He has painted 40 murals in the past 3 years with over 10,000 students, community members, and teachers. Davaro-Comas consults on public art projects, paints private commissioned murals, and exhibits his work in galleries. You will learn a lot more here over the next 30, 45 minutes, an hour. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ramiro.
Well, that's it. She said it all. See you guys later. All right. Hannah, wow. Thank you so much. That was, I've never felt so good about our collaboration. I will be just checking my phone just to make sure that I'm on time and I'm moving appropriately, so that I'm not out here for like 6 hours because I can talk for that long. But thank you so much to everybody for coming here today. Thank you so much to Hannah for having me in the school, and especially to all the students that helped today. That was a huge, huge help. And we really moved this project forward a lot. So big thank you to all of you. As Hannah said, my name is Ramiro Davaro-Comas, Ramiro Davaro-Comas in Spanish. I am an artist, a dad, a firefighter, a skateboarder, and an immigrant from Argentina. And those are all the labels and pieces of my identity that make me and that make like the community that is inside of me. I think it's important for me to be able to embrace all of those pieces of myself so that I can be my genuine self when I'm out here painting with everybody. And it's just important for any artist who is doing that and who is painting with the communities to understand that communities also have a variety of different aspects that make them. And being able to embrace those different identities in the community or people or places or spaces is really helps artists create authentic work that reflects community values. So I think it's important. I always talk about this stuff with younger people because when I was younger, I was like, oh, I'm just a skateboarder and that's just what I do. And that was the only thing I was focused on. And it's so important to realize that like all of the people around you, including yourselves, there's so many different things that make you you. And that is important to be able to be you and to embrace that so that you can go out there and embrace community when you're working with community. I'm an honest person. What you'll see here is my experience working with communities and my stories and the things that I've researched. So I just want to share that just so that you're not like, hey, graffiti didn't start like that, or this is just my experience. So the presentation, we're going to see a little bit of my work. We're going to see some of the work that pushed me to really fully immerse myself in community engaged mural practice. We're going to see some examples of how and why muralism really started in the United States, and a couple of examples of other organizations that are also have a big community engagement part to their practice. And the last thing that you'll see is if you haven't seen the sketch for the mural, I will show you that. And the sketch was created in partnership with Hannah's class and all of the students. And I'll explain a little bit of how we got to what we started doing. But as Hannah said, she said all this stuff. But anyways, I've been painting murals for about 15 years. Talking about drawing and visual landscape has been really important in my life. I came here when I was 5 years old from Argentina, and I learned how to speak English through drawing. And I think art is such an important way to kind of explain everything that is happening around you. And both like through the imagery and through sculpture and through all kinds of different ways, we are able to understand the world around us. And I came here when I was 5. So does anybody speak Spanish here? A couple of people? Sweet, right. So for the rest of you who don't, when I got here, it would be like if you were sitting there and then suddenly la maestra empezaría a hablar en español y vos estabas como, ¿qué me están diciendo? Y no tengo idea, ¿qué quiere? So that tiny little 5-second experience that you just had is what everybody feels like when they go to a new place, whether it's this country or another country. You're kind of like, whoa, what is happening? And through drawing, I was able to draw like an apple, and I would say manzana, and then another student would say apple. And then I'd like clock that in my head, and I'd understand, oh, okay. And that is what the power of art and painting murals has been for hundreds and hundreds of years, is to explain what is happening around you through just visual cues and through illustrations. I've painted in many different countries. They're all right there. Mexico, Haiti, Spain, the Netherlands, and all over the US. And I created a traveling artist residency program called Dripped on the Road. That is how I met Hannah. And our meeting really changed my life. And it really, I think, gave me a lot more purpose and a lot more guidance to where I was going with my mural practice. A few years ago, about 3 years ago, my partner and I, Grace, we started an organization called Super Stories. We are an arts education organization. We have a physical space in upstate New York, and she does most of the art education there, and I travel to do all of the mural work. And in those 3 years, I've painted with like over 10,000 students and community members, because I usually show up to a school and they say, if we're gonna invest, we want every student to paint this mural. And so I'm painting with like 500 elementary school students every week. There's a new mural. So it's been very, very fun. But I feel like I have, through meeting Hannah and the projects we've done together, matured and really realized like what is the legacy that I want to leave. So before it was just like me just painting me and the things that I wanted to paint. I didn't really care about who was gonna see it. I was like, I wanna paint something cool because I learned how to paint with spray paint in New York City from graffiti writers and people who are like, their whole thing was just like, make it look good, make it look cool. I don't really care who's gonna see it because check this out. And so I would paint a lot of stuff like this and I really enjoyed it. Some people enjoyed it, but I never really was engaging with community when I was doing this. I might be talking to somebody who was walking by, but I was never really like, hey, what do you wanna see up here? So it was really all about like me when I was painting before. And I loved it. I had a lot of fun. I traveled to a lot of different places to paint. And people were hiring me to paint, the kind of stuff that I like to paint. But it was just, put this here. It was just all about what I wanted to do. And, this is all these murals. Of course, I have a style and people like that style. And so they would invite me. But again, there's like three main constituents to art. And they are community, they are the person who hires you, and they are the artist. And I didn't care about anybody else other than what I was painting. And eventually you start looking around the world and seeing that things are a bit difficult everywhere. And I was just saying to myself, what can I do to make the world a little bit better with the skills that I have? So I went from like this cool guy painting in Mexico to hopefully this cool guy painting with a ton of students. These are all middle school students in Albany. And it just, I think for me, working with community has really kind of transformed the way that I see what my responsibility is as an artist. Because I have a certain skill that I can use to really give a voice to people who sometimes don't have one. So as I was just mentioning, I think this is a really, really important aspect of community engagement mural work, is that there are these three constituents here. There's the artist who is me, and this is kind of like how it's working here today, right? There's an artist who comes in with a certain set of skills and a certain vision of how this message should be portrayed. But then there's also a commissioning agency. Here it is the school, and really the community was the students that I worked with and all of the people the students worked with as well. So with these three groups coming together, that is how a successful community engaged project happens. And all of them have to be in communication with each other and working with each other because that's just how it happens successfully. Usually the community aspect of it and meeting with the community is so important. And since I wasn't able to meet with everyone in the school, it was really, really helpful to have Hannah and the students go out and talk to people and get ideas and get, just prompts and different things that the community who is here every day can see and can enjoy. It doesn't really matter what I want to see because I'm not here, right? So if I wanted to see a glowing shark, it doesn't matter because I'm not here every single day. So it's important for me to be able to paint something that reflects the values of that community. These are really, really important reasons and goals of why we do this. So we want to be able to include everybody in these projects, especially with young kids. I want to empower them and show them that their work matters and that their voice matters. And when you show a 4-year-old that they are able to do something in the world to help and to change their own visual landscape, it is profoundly impactful to their life. Because we are saying that yes, you can, and we're teaching them not just to be able to like take care of their environment, but to work with their hands, something that is so needed right now since everybody is just looking down at their phones every single day. For young people, this is super, super, super important to be able to have that power. And as one of the things here, reviving abandoned or overlooked spaces, that is exactly what we're doing with the space that we're painting right now that used to be covered in lockers, and now it wasn't lockers, and now we're gonna have 2 beautiful murals painted there. So really engaging with the community and being able to reflect their values back to them is just so important. And here, really at the end, depending on what the mural is, it can really start a conversation, it can start a debate. Ideally, it brings pride to the space and the people that are seeing it every single day, and they can relate to it. It can make them happy, and it can make them really think about, well, what other things can I do? Whether that's painting a mural or working with the environment or teaching or any other thing that can spark inspiration. And that is the goal every single time that I paint. That is my goal. But I can only do that if I truly and honestly engage with the people that I'm working for and with. But I'm gonna go back just a little bit because I think this is actually really important, and I nerded out a lot on this. But you know, really working with the community, especially in the US, started with the section of fine arts. Is anyone here familiar with this project? A couple of people. Well, if you're an art historian, you're probably familiar with this, right? So this, when I started reading about this, I was just blown away. But this was a project, a New Deal program that was about 9 years old, and it lasted 9 years. And this project brought hundreds of artists to paint murals in post offices and in other federal buildings. And the government, surprise, was paying people to do that. Amazing, right? So it was just a really incredible way of having artists create new works in these federal buildings that were kind of popping up everywhere, and to employ people. And there was an amazing movement that happened. But all of these muralists and all of these artists were inspired by the Mexican muralist movement. And this movement and these artists, they were used by the government in Mexico to create visuals and to create these murals to explain to people what was happening. Because a lot of people at that time couldn't read. And so it didn't matter if you were going to give them pamphlets or whatever, you don't know what's going on. And so through all of these different murals and things, people could actually understand what was happening. And it was just so successful, and they were painting so well that they started coming up here to the US and being hired by some gigantic companies and government entities as well. Eventually, they didn't last long because they were painting things that the current government at the time and also the current CEOs did not like. And that was basically power to the people and a lot of socialist imagery. But they really, really influenced a lot of muralists in the US. And that is really where like the community engaged, loosely said, mural practice started happening in the US. Obviously, this is happening during the Depression, and people do not have money. They don't have money now either, to fly from Massachusetts to Ohio or to drive at that point or take a train and go back. So the same problems that we are having today with like, I don't believe that represents my community, I don't like this mural, why did you choose these colors? They were having then as well. Because the only person who was really communicating with these artists was a postmaster. Yep, back in the day, you would write a letter to the postmaster, and the postmaster would tell you, hey, this is the deal with our community. Make a mural about that. And so that's what their jobs were. But in a way, they still were kind of engaging with the community. And so I chose 3 murals that I really, really enjoyed. This one's called Texas Farm. The style that came out of this and really the art movement is called regionalism. If you just think about the word, it's like, duh. It's kind of representational work that has to do with the region that the murals are painted in. And so this is all of the work is pretty representational with the industry, with the people, and kind of the work that was going on there. I chose these three because they're my favorite ones that I found during my research, and also because they're bananas. This is an amazing mural. It's in New York, so hopefully someday I can go see it in person. But this one is about a rent strike that was happening during the time. And I don't know, I found it fascinating because it's like all these guys are wearing these animal masks, and it seems like the person all the way on the horse is the landlord, and just really, really amazing. So there must have been at some point here some kind of communication about what was happening in the area. And then this one is just crazy. I love this mural because it is so different from all of the other ones I saw. All of the other ones are pretty serious and are really trying to depict the local industry and everything that's going on with a serious tone. But this one is a little bit more surreal and funny. And I think that, when you're going into the post office to send a letter and you're just dead broke because it's the Depression, I think seeing stuff like this was really kind of causing some excitement in the community. But this is probably one of my favorites that I found. But this is, again, artists working with people to try to represent their identity and their community in a way. Someday, I hope to find corn that is that big. I think probably one of my favorites is the little clown in the cowboy boots. Like, what is happening here? But all of this stuff, obviously, it all comes before I started painting murals, and it, in a way, influenced the visual landscape that started growing in the United States. We had graffiti happen, street art, and contemporary muralism. And through all of those things, I was influenced to paint, not in my studio, but to start painting out in the streets. And I launched, because I had experience with artist residency programs, I launched this project called Dripped on the Road. It's an artist residency program. I would bring artists in an RV up and down the East Coast for 40 days. We were sponsored by Pabst Blue Ribbon. So all of our clients were bars, and they didn't care about who saw it. Right, so like in the three groups that we saw, community was not in there. They knew that people were coming here to have a fun time, so they just said, paint something that's great. Please use red, white, and blue. Those are our colors. You can add a couple of other things there, collaborate, have a great time. Here's a credit card. And so it was really fun for a few years. As you can imagine, artists shooting a documentary as well, going up and down the East Coast, was great. But it literally, when we were done with the mural, we were like, next, next, next. And we were only spending 2 or 3 days in each one of these communities. We weren't engaging with anybody unless we were at the bar drinking after. And so there was like, it got to a moment where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is fun, but like, I feel like I can give so much more and do so much more than just like showing up at a dark bar and then just painting something that like no one really cares if I'm there painting it or not, you know? So I decided to reach out to Hannah's program and to ask if I could bring 4 or 5 artists there, shoot a documentary there, and paint 14 murals in 14 days. And Hannah was like, yeah, of course, let's do it. Which is amazing to have a person like that, definitely in your school. But this experience really, this is where I was like, there's so much power and there's so much more that I can give of myself to the world that is not just painting in a bar. And with Hannah invited city council members, the mayor, a ton of community members to meet with me and to make lists and to talk about what imagery would you like to see in your community. And if you tell me you want portraits or you want this or that, I will find you those artists, because I want you to, when we leave, to be so just over the moon with what we've done. And I wanted to impact the community positively and influence more public art. to start happening. So we did it. And in October of 2016, I got some artists, and instead of getting an RV, we just stayed in an apartment for 2020, sorry, yeah, 2020. Yes, this was during COVID. So that is a very important part of this story. Sorry, 2016 is when I started this project. It's really important because no one was doing anything during COVID. Like, there wasn't anything going on. And suddenly a crew of weird people came from New York City to paint a bunch of murals in this Western Pennsylvania coal mining town. It was definitely an experience. So we came to Indiana, and Indiana is the home of Jimmy Stewart. For you young people here, Jimmy Stewart was an actor, very, very, very famous American actor. And It's a Wonderful Life was one of his most favorite and famous movies. So we got a list of all of the things that the community would like to see. I got a group of artists that could transform those ideas into a visual reality, and we painted. And the first couple of days, people were really confused. And when you start painting a mural, it doesn't really look that good in the beginning. So people were like, this is bad, you should leave. Why are you here? And, that's really what people were asking. Why are you here? Why are you here? And we really said, why not be here? Like, every community and every place deserves world-class public art. And you do as well. And it was cool because since there was nothing to do, now families and people were starting to walk around and stop by every single day. And on like the third day, everyone was really into it. And people started bringing us just money, just $5, or pizza or sandwiches. And we felt so welcomed here in this community through doing this project. And this is a mural of Edward Abbey, who is an environmentalist who was from the town. This mural before here, if you can't read it, it says It's a Wonderful Life. And we were really just working with all of the input and everything that we had to paint things that the community would be happy with. I painted this mural here. Indiana is known as the Christmas tree capital of the world. And so I painted some weird Christmas trees. They said that a lot of college students came here and got subs at Bob's Sub. So I thought that this illustration style would be adequate. This is a mural by one of our artists. Her name is Sarah Rutherford. She painted this in like 12 days. It's massive. And she does a project called Her Voice Carries, where she brings artists from she paints women artists from one spot, from one town to another town. And just a really incredible project. And this is a mural of Jimmy Stewart. Damian Mitchell painted this in like 6 hours. And it's really, really an incredible project. But this one was really where this is the mural that kind of changed my life. This artist, Evan Lovett, he painted this coal mining mural. And in 2020, there was just a lot of talk about coal and coal mining, and the community did not feel seen, and they did not feel respected. And so once he started painting this is the first time when I saw like 30 to 40 people come by who were all part of coal mining families and tell us their story. And tell us how important it was for them to have something represent them and to have people from outside of their community come here and really paint an homage to them, their families, and the hard work that they did to build this country and the world through coal mining. So this is where I said, oh, okay. Like, this is what's really, really important. Glowing sharks, not that important. This, very important. Whether I paint it or not, this is what I need to focus my time on. And you can find many other examples of other communities who have been overlooked. And the same thing, you'll have the same response. So this really, really pushed me to think about community engagement. Here's another mural in Blairsville. The next year we came back. We painted another 14 murals in the town next to it. And it really transformed the entire area. And they ended up receiving a $100,000 grant to continue to do public art. Many more artists and murals popped up. And it was just like a little mini visual revolution in this community. And I loved going there because I could just go outside and be like, I know you, I know you, I know you, and just talk to so many people because I spent so much time in this community. And this is at the Elks Lodge. And as you might be able to guess, the Elks Lodge is not like the most artsy place. And so to have them really hire us and really just ask us to do this was huge. And they came out and they were so proud of this mural that we were just invited every single day inside to come eat and hang out and just listen to their stories. And it was transformative. You know, when you go from painting on a street in New York City for and by yourself to being really received with open arms in all of these communities that I have nothing to do with, it really, again, just like brought me to why I need to work more for communities. And so that's when, my partner Grace and I, we started Super Stories 3 years ago, and we've been painting murals with communities and kids, especially young students, ever since. Here are some murals. This one was at the North Albany Middle School in Albany, New York. My style of working with people is to hang out with them and to do a brainstorming session. I want to see on paper what the community wants to see, what you want to see. Whether you like to draw or whether you want to make a collage or make a list of words or whatever, my job is to listen and to be as open as I can so that I can really, really transfer your ideals and your values into a nice piece of public art. So you'll start seeing more of these photos where I'm not really in the photos. It's really about giving the full experience of mural painting, not just of coming up with the ideas, but of painting the murals to the students and to the communities I am working with. So this is an elementary school in Massachusetts. This is another project. That's my partner, Grace. That's our son, Otis. He's 2 months old there, and he's been to 5 mural projects at this point in festivals, and he's only 2. He painted his first mural 2 months ago. So he's having a great time. But again, this is another one of these murals where we paint the exact drawing that the students made. And you'll see in kids' faces when they recognize that that was their little mini drawing and now it's being painted huge. For that moment, they're so happy. And actually, in one of the schools in Indiana that I worked with, a student had painted or drawn something called a sun dog. It was just a sun with the face of a dog. And when he saw it, he was running up and down the hallways yelling, "Sun dog, sun dog, sun dog." And you can only imagine what that does to a young kid, who sees someone take their work seriously. This is the Allen Street campus. This is a school for social and emotional learning in Rutland, Vermont. And these students have been through a lot. Homelessness, a lot of drug use in the family. And this school here is kind of like their last stop before they get kicked out of public school. And so the word that they chose was resilience, because that is that is them. And we painted some plants growing all around it to also illustrate the fact that they are themselves growing and being resilient, just like the plants all around them. But this is a really, really important project in school because it really catches students at a moment where they really, really need help. This is a mural at Woodlawn Elementary. I've worked with this school for about 3-ish years now, and we're shooting a documentary about the impact of public art in their school. Because I've worked with kids who were in pre-K and now they're in 4th grade, and they've painted 12 murals with me. And I am hoping that some of those students will be famous muralists someday, or painters. And if not, that they will at least be able to think creatively about the world and the positions and places that they end up going to when they get older. Another mural, the Adam J. Lewis Academy. All of these murals, again, have a huge community input aspect to them. The Roots Academy in Albany. And I like to do this style, and you'll see this is kind of the style that we're working with for our mural. It's kind of like a ripped paper style so that I can take different ideas from different students and illustrate them in these kinds of ways. So there's just so much here that the students had input on. This is the Rutland Middle School. This is just like 3 photos of one gigantic mural in their cafeteria. All things that have to do with Vermont. This one was at a housing complex in New York City. So this was all with Spanish-speaking older adults that did not want to draw. When I pulled out pencils and pens, they were like, no, we don't draw. And so I had also brought stacks of magazines that had a lot of natural elements in them, and plants and shapes and stuff. So they actually all made collages. And it was really, I think, important for me to recognize like what that community is comfortable doing and how they're comfortable giving feedback to an artist, because no one wanted to draw. And I think like the older that you get, the least open you are to drawing, because so many people are like, I can't even draw a stick figure. And I'm like, well, you probably can, but just try. So this was really great because they were able to give me all these plants and all this feedback for what they wanted to see in their community room. This is a mural at the Ichabod Crane High School in my hometown. They are Ichabod Crane, so of course they have the Headless Horseman as part of their story. Probably the only school in the world who would let me paint a Headless Horseman there. But again, I'm taking different pieces of the community and of their school and putting them together to create something that they're like super happy with. And this one is the last one that we did in Rutland. This was myself and a 7th grader and a teacher. And the goal was just to paint all of the teachers' names in the background in a graffiti style, and then write the words Rutland on top with kind of like a shadow, a drop shadow, so that it looks 3D. And we're gonna paint one mural tomorrow, and then we're gonna paint a mural that looks just like this on the other wall. And so I would love for as many of you that would like to come and to help me. I'm gonna teach you how to spray paint, and we're gonna just tag this entire wall with positive messages, with your name if you would like, with a little tag if you have one, and then we're going to choose a word together that we're gonna be able to write on top of it. So the last couple of things I wanna show are just other organizations that are very community focused that you might not have heard of. Has anyone heard of the Heidelberg Project? Well, let me tell you, this project is amazing. It's in Detroit, and an artist, Tyree Guyton, started this project, showed up at home one day, everything was on fire because that's just how Detroit was, and he just wanted to fix his community and do something. And so he started doing stuff like this to all of the houses in the entire block. And then they moved from this block to another block, and it is just a massive, massive organization that now has done stuff like this to these couple of streets. So it's cool, like if you don't know where you're going and then you start seeing this, you're like, this is crazy. But all of this stuff was done with community input, with community help, and to just brighten up this area that was just, you would just be surrounded by burnt down houses. So this is Tyree and the community that all came together to create this amazing project. These are the only photos I have here because I really encourage you to look it up. And if you're ever in Michigan, go to Detroit, go see this. It's world famous now because it's like blocks and blocks of weird stuff like that. Like houses covered in typewriters, like it's just crazy. And the other project is called Good Space Murals. And I did a training with Greta, who is the director of Good Space Murals. And she trained me on Polytab and how to paint on Polytab and get community engaged through this process. And I just always like to show her work because she has paint parties and she paints in somewhat of a representational form and style. But all of these murals, community members had a hand in creating it and in painting them. So they're just really, really great. And this is all Polytab, which is kind of like a glorified wallpaper. So not only do they paint it, but then they have to glue it onto the wall, and then they have to overpaint over the seams and really, really make sure that the entire image just looks solid and looks cohesive. And this is like after a paint party and after they finished. That's the amount of people that she engages with almost every single time they paint a mural. So a huge inspiration to me and someone who I look up to and am just always so thankful that I was able to go through her program because that coupled with the experience that I had with Hannah and those other murals, it really kind of launched me into where I am today. And the last thing I just want to leave you all with is like, think about what you're going to do. Most people in here are students. So you have a long future ahead of you. And think about like, what is the legacy that you're gonna leave behind? This is something that I always ask myself, and I don't wanna be painting in a studio anymore. I wanna be engaging with as many people as possible. How will you help the world? Sometimes it can be little things, sometimes it can be big things. It doesn't all have to do with art. It can be with so many different aspects of your life, of your identity, of the things that you like to do, but what are you gonna do to help the world? I always say, listen, be authentic, include as many people as possible in the work that you do, and just be yourself. And be as open as you can to experience, to other ideas, and just engage with yourself and engage with everybody around you. Because if you can do that, not only are you going to, of course, feel better, but you're really, really gonna make a change. The world is crazy. The world has always been crazy, but the world is wild. And so it really is up to you all and ourselves to see and to realize that you have power and you can do pretty much anything that you want. So how are you going to do that? Tomorrow, we will do something like that, and we will also do that on Friday. We will be painting this. So this is the mural that we're gonna be painting. Here is a mock-up of how it will look. And this mural was created through gathering all kinds of different illustrations that the great students in Hannah's class got for me. And I was able to put all of their ideas and some of their actual drawings together here to create this. The goal of this mural is to just make people in the school happy, to uplift anyone who is walking by these walls, to make them feel proud that they go to this school, and to have a great time learning this and learning this style of community engagement and painting, and to ideally keep this as part of your life and continue to push it forward to anyone else that you might meet. So hopefully this energy will continue to reverberate in your lives and in this community. And I hope that this can really, really just continue to psych everybody out and keep everybody moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so now we get to open it up for questions, for Q&A. So I'll be walking around with this. Does anyone have any questions? Great, perfect. We'll go over to the right side.
Sorry, I spilled some water here. I was like, I got a little woozy there in the middle. I've been up for a long time.
I'm bringing it anyway.
Thank you. The question I have is, like, you're an artist, and then you have a lot of people that help you paint a big, huge mural. And some of those murals are so, I don't know, like a picture of a person exact. How do you exactly do that? Do you designate people to just do this, this, and this, and you kind of outline everything, or how does that work?
You can see. Come on out after, because I'm going to be tracing the mural that we're painting. Some of the murals that you saw that were like really photorealistic, that is the skill of another artist. So those murals were by Damian Mitchell, who I would say is probably one of the top representational artists in the world that uses spray paint. With spray paint, you can blend really easily and really fast. Spray paint dries in 5 seconds. So you can paint, when you saw the Jimmy Stewart mural, I mean, he did that in 6 hours because he can blend and he doesn't have to wait for it to dry, like, like he can just paint. And so a big part of my job is to, if I go into a community and they're like, we want something like that, then my job is to go find that artist that can do that so that that community is happy with that. With a lot of other work, yes, I will trace it with a projector because it just saves me a ton of time. Can I draw it? Yes. Is it going to take 5 times as long? Probably, because I'm like having to look at it and make a little grid and everything. But most of the time, like when we are going to be painting tomorrow, everything is going to be sketched out. Everybody has sheets of paper that show you what color goes there and what, and it's just to paint by numbers at that point. And I've been able to do this so much now that it's just really, really easy. Someone shows up, they say, can I help you? I say, yes, here's a brush, here's red, that part's red, have fun. And you can't really make mistakes painting a mural because like the paint dries and we just paint over it. And so that is like another thing that I like to say is like, don't be afraid, of making mistakes because we'll just repaint it. And it's totally fine. And I hope that that lesson also goes on like in people's lives. Like you have to make mistakes to learn. If you don't make mistakes, you're not going to learn. I've been skateboarding for so long and like if I'm not falling when I'm skateboarding, I'm not learning. Now I'm good on that. But before when I was learning how to skate and like do tricks and everything, you have to fall, and yeah, it's something that really brought a lot of resilience into my life.
And then you can hand this back.
Okay, I'm feeling very inspired to do community engaged art. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, what is like a very difficult challenge that you've encountered? Because I feel like this would be where you're dealing with so many different people. I feel like it would be really easier to encounter issues with either the people you're working with or with like permitting or something like that. What's something that's been really difficult about working with community?
Something that is not difficult is that whenever I work with Hannah, it's very easy because we both share a lot of that load. I think the most difficult part is when people aren't clear about what they want. I've had businesses or people reach out, they say they want a mural, I say, okay, of what? And they're like, I don't really know. And as soon as you hear that, you're like, oh man. Do you want a bug? Do you want words? Like, do you want plants? What's going on? So I think like really my job as an artist is to ask questions and to listen. And the best relationships in life are a give and take and a lot of both sides listening to each other. And a lot of both sides understanding each other through communicating. And so a good example is I had a person who had a motel and they wanted a mural. When I asked them of what, they had no idea. So I just said, look, go online, look at some murals, look at some things that inspire you, and shoot me over a bunch of photos or something that I can like grasp on to make this. And so they did, they sent me all this stuff. I spent 2 hours making a sketch. I sent it back to them and their response was, this is very uninspiring. I do not like this. I was like, dude, this is what you sent to me. And so when I get that, I'm like, oh my God, like they don't even know. So it was just a lot of us talking to each other and a lot of really me asking questions like, what kind of color palette would you like to work with? We got to the end of this project where it was all designed And then they said, oh, well, the color palette doesn't fit my brand. I'm like, dude, I've been showing you this thing for so long. That should have been the first thing you said. So these are all thoughts that are going through my head, and then I very eloquently communicate that to them and just ask them, so I just need more. And then I think the hard part of that is when you send something that you're really proud of, someone says something like that, and you're like, oof, okay, don't take it personally. Clearly I need to ask more. And then I asked more, and we painted the mural, and they were super, super happy with it. But that communicating for any kind of relationship, whether it's partners or caretakers or whoever it is, open communication lines is so important.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
My question also kind of deals about community. Do you ever find yourself going to the location and trying to meet the people before you're doing the mural to truly like understand, or are you doing a lot of more emailing and like messaging a lot before?
Almost every single time I go. So I go to the school or to the community group or whatever it is. For every single mural that you saw there, I was there for one full day. And I'm either in like the art class and they're making drawings, and I'm working with every single art class or student group that goes into the art class, or with every retirement group that is in there. I always meet with people first. I think it's really important, especially now when you can just be like, I'm on Zoom or I'm on an iPhone, to meet people in person. You really, really just get to like see them, and you might say something about what you think the mural should be that you might not understand from their faces if you're on Zoom, or if you're just on a phone call, or in an email. But when you are there really actively listening and being in their space, you can really understand it a lot better than any other format. So yes, most of the time I do. I just couldn't really come here before because I live in New York, and we just this way really worked out well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question. Yes, Anne-Marie.
Thank you. This has been really fun. But there was one detail I didn't quite catch, the name of the material that was on the wall. And I wondered, what's the advantage of using that instead of painting directly on the wall?
Accessibility. So the material is called Polytab. It's basically like a glorified paper. It's basically wallpaper. So you prime it first. Try to put 2 layers of primer on it. It's very porous, so like you can't just prime it on the ground and leave it there. It'll stick. Everything will rip. But it's Polytab, and so you cut it into manageable sections. You have your sheet of Polytab. You will use a very strong glue. You'll like roll the wall, and you'll put that sheet, and then you'll basically just squeegee. You'll squeegee it onto the wall and take all the glue, the excess glue out of the back, and through that movement, you're gluing it to the wall. The reason why we've used that in a bunch is for accessibility. So people might not be able to access a 2-story building. People might not be able to go on a ladder. Some people are afraid to go on tall ladders or on a lift or whatever. Some people might not be able to stand for that long. And so when we will go to a school or to a park and we'll set up a bunch of tables and we'll drape that piece right there. And anyone with any ability can just show up, and this is red, they just paint red. And if they're tired, they can go home. But they don't have to be like standing there painting the entire time. And it's just a way of almost like, of just giving anyone an opportunity to paint the mural. And the cool thing is that then you put it up, and people are like, oh, I painted that part. That's crazy. It's like all the way up there. I've never seen something like that. So that is really the power of it, and it's so like inclusive to be able to paint on Polytab. But it is a process, and you have to like prep your Polytab first. You have to project your stuff onto it, grid it, make sure you have everything prepared. It's a lot of work before and kind of work after when you glue it, because it's really physical. And then you have to overpaint it and seal it. It's like a whole thing. But I think it's that investment is really important if you want to include as many people with as many different abilities as possible.
I agree with everybody else. This was really inspiring. And I was wondering, you said that you painted outside the States too. Do you have like different experiences versus painting in the States and out of the States? And my other question is, was it community-based or was it just your murals?
Most of the stuff that I painted, almost all of the stuff that I painted everywhere else was just my murals. I was still kind of figuring out how to work with the community. When I was in Haiti, I was painting at schools, and I was painting like somewhat illustrative figures of animals and things that they saw there, but I wasn't engaging with them all the time. We were in the north of Haiti, and it was a challenging area, especially to like fly in, have a conversation with people, fly out, and then come back with paint. So it was challenging. I mean, our spray paint was stuck on a boat in the ocean, on a freighter that wasn't gonna dock. So someone actually got on a little boat and rowed all the way over there, got on the freighter, went all the way up, brought all the spray paint down, and brought it to us. So it was a really interesting experience. It was great. And we were able to bring like a certain style of artwork to this community that had never seen anything like that. But almost all of the stuff was before I was really engaged with the community. Now I would love to go and travel as much as I could and meet with as many different people as I could, to be able to like represent their work.
I have one more question. When's the event tomorrow?
So I'll be here at 7. So I'll be painting from 7, I think, to 7. And I think we'll get the mural done then. And then we will have another, like the graffiti aspect of the project will be on Friday. You're welcome to come by at any point. I will show you how to spray paint, and you can paint. And then we will have a reception at 4 o'clock. So by 3 o'clock, we will be done, and we'll kind of, be getting ready for the reception.
Anyone else? Other questions? But, yeah.
To the community, or to the school, or is it worked through grants?
Great question. Yes, I charge a fee for the project. It's kind of up to the school because every school is different of how they're going to fund it. I will always, if they have a grant, I will always write the grant. I will always give them all the information that they need, the photos that they need, the budgets that they need. And then it's up to the granting organization to see if the school got it or not. There are organizations where I live called BOCES. I don't know if you have that here, but it's basically like a regional fund for arts and humanities. And so each school gets allotted a certain amount of money. And if you go in as an artist and talk to someone, they can say, sure, we'll put together a couple $1,000s from that budget for this project. So yeah, it's crazy because ideally, like every school has so much funding for the arts and to have students be able to express themselves and learn all these kinds of new things, but they don't. That's the reality of today. And so I work really hard, and sometimes we get no's. And I've been working with the school for a couple of years trying to get these grants, and we got no's. And it's very deflating for everybody, but I just say, let's just do it again. Or let's find another way of trying to fundraise, I think you have to be really creative today to fundraise. So I look at like every corporation in my town, and every single one of them has some kind of grant program. Some of them, like Dunkin' Donuts, will support more food-based programming, like an Ocean State Job Lot, or like a Walmart will support like more like homeless shelters and things like that. But you just have to be really creative of where we're going to find that kind of money. It's great when someone's like, here you go. I'm like, yeah, we didn't have to do much other than paint the full mural. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, if you think of any, Ramiro's going to be here at 7 a.m. tomorrow. So you can just stop by, bring coffee, and chat with him about what your questions are. And then we'll be painting about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow. So swing on by to the Arts Complex courtyard. And then Friday at 4 p.m. is our big unveiling. So you can see both murals and have some refreshments and a good time. So I want to thank you, Ramiro. That was lovely. And
Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you all. And if anyone's interested in how the process works, now, since it's dark, we're going to go project. So we're going to go project the mural and trace it. It should probably be like 45 minutes, hopefully less. But if anybody wants to trace right now, come on down. Thank you.